Do you know that nagging feeling when something feels slightly off in the world? It is that strange sensation that you cannot quite put your finger on. I used to feel that every single day while living in Stockholm. I worked in a tiny store selling completely pointless running gear. I sat there wondering if this was really all there was to life. Society says being rich means having a fancy car or the latest phone. But the truth is that working, commuting, and waiting for weekends is a trap. Real wealth is what I have found here on my own land. We have our own water, our health, and total control over our time. Before we dive into how I escaped the matrix, hit subscribe so you never miss an update. My escape started with two major moments of realization. Back in 2017, I bought this forest sanctuary for $228,000. It was just supposed to be a weekend house 6 hours away from the city. That summer, I spent 3 weeks of paid vacation here, renovating and fishing. The time flew by and suddenly I was back in that store I hated. A colleague welcomed me back and asked a question that changed everything. He asked if I realized it would be a whole year before my next vacation. That realization hit me like a ton of bricks right there in the store. I decided in that moment that I was going to quit my job forever. I did not quit immediately because I needed to be smart about my money. I stayed for a few months and played along with their corporate games. They even offered me a free company phone with the catch that they could call me any time. I handed it right back and told them I do not exist when I am not at work. They thought I was absolutely crazy for turning down a free phone. But in December, I packed a borrowed car and drove into a freezing winter. Life is simply too short to spend it working on things you do not enjoy. The hardest part of breaking out is realizing you are even in a cage. We often choose the comfort of a steady salary over our own actual happiness. My second realization came from a lecture called "Everything is Made Up." The idea is that every job, every object, and every social rule was created by someone. If everything is made up, then you have the power to make up your own life. I became entrepreneurial and started creating several small streams of income. I started a running club, gave lectures, and hosted various weekend events. None of them paid much alone, but together they created a decent living. The journey was not always roses and sunshine, especially in the beginning. I slept on the floor in a sleeping bag and had no running water or internet. I felt incredibly lonely and spent birthdays and Christmas completely by myself. I questioned if I was stupid for sitting by a fire freezing in the dark. But those low points were necessary to reach the dream I have today. You have to be okay with the struggle if you want to escape the system. People often ask me how I deal with the fear of leaving safety behind. I always ask myself, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? If I failed, I would just move back to the city and find another job. That is not a failure, because the only real failure is never trying at all. I do acknowledge that I have an unfair advantage because of my background. I had a safe upbringing and a family to fall back on if things went wrong. Everyone has their own version of what the matrix looks like. For me, it is living in nature while still using technology and playing games. I love having one foot in the forest and the other foot in the digital world. What does your version of the matrix look like? And how do you want to live? Please leave a comment so we can have a real discussion about this. Check out my playlist below for more stories about life, growth, and starting over.